And I guess we're live.
I guess we are.
Hi, everyone. And hello, Laura and Chris. And we're really glad to be here. So before I actually start to ramble and, go totally off topic, which I do on these lives, let me introduce myself first. I am Divya Mohan, and I'm a senior technical evangelist at SUSE. And there are a bunch of things I do in the cloud native community outside of my day job, which is also how I met my co-hosts, Chris and Laura here, who also do very awesome things, which I shall hand over to them to speak about in a bit. So, Laura and Chris, how are you doing today?
Good.
I'm
How are you?
awesome. How can I complain? This is the first meeting of my day, right? Like, this is
Yeehaw.
great.
I mean, if this is the first meeting of your day, Chris, then I think you've like hit the jackpot. Like, you get to hang
It
out with
is.
us. Come on.
Right?
Like, what could be better than that?
Exactly.
See,
But
magic.
yeah, for those who are tuning in, we will get to the context of the live stream in a bit. But before that, I would really love for Chris and Laura to introduce themselves because I do know them a lot, but I don't know if our viewers do. So I would like probably go in alphabetic order, or if it's possible,
Oh,
Chris first and
Sure.
then Laura.
Chris, you go first.
sure. Alphabetical order works for me. Hi, I'm Chris Short. I work at AWS. I'm a developer advocate sitting on the product marketing team for EKS, and it has been very fun to be the developer advocate of like community person, open source person, Kubernetes person with a team of marketers trying to figure out how to do all this. And yeah, it's been awesome. So I am looking for work, sadly. So yeah, I'm still at AWS, but we'll see how long that lasts. Sorry.
See.
So yeah, Laura.
Yeah. My name is Laura Santamaria, and I am a lead developer advocate at Dell. And I've been in the cloud native space now for time. 2019. 2019. Yes,
Yeah.
2019.
Much time,
Um,
much time.
yeah, I'm kind of like, what? How long have I been here? But along with working upstream in the Kubernetes project, I also run DevOps Days Austin and a number of meetups in the Austin, Texas area. So I'm kind of a little all over the place, but you'll be able to find me in a lot of the cloud native spaces, especially at KubeCon. So we're really excited to be here.
And I couldn't be more excited to host you because we are going to talk about one of I don't want to say our favorite events, but I think one of our favorite events that's coming up, KubeCon.
An overwhelming event. How about that?
Yes,
An
yes,
overwhelmingly big event.
that's a better word. Overwhelmingly big event. That's KubeCon in Chicago. So if you are here for the live discussion that was supposed to happen tomorrow and is happening tomorrow about Harvester, you've clearly stumbled onto the wrong live stream. But I promise, if you stay, this is going to be pretty fun
Yeah.
too.
Guaranteed.
So yeah, because we are all awesome people here. So why are we here? So to set some context, what exactly happened was that Walid Shari, a couple of weeks ago, I
Two
guess,
weeks. 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 2 weeks ago, ended up like having this tweet sent out to a lot of folks in the cloud native community. And yeah, this was it. And yeah, he wanted us to, chip in with any know before you go articles or videos or any sort of content that we have for KubeCon NA. And this was based on some queries that he had received. And personally speaking, I received a lot of them too, some similar ones, but I'm sure from different people.
Hmm.
And giving credit where it's due, Chris was like, he initiated this group chat and he's like, do you want to do something around this? And I was like, I'm game. And that's
Yeah, why not?
the story of
Mm-hmm.
how you have this life.
Right. I did one of
So
these
yeah.
last year with Maddie Stratton and Jacqueline, and it was informative and fun all at the same time. So, like, getting asked this question, I was like, "Oh yeah, I haven't put one of those on my calendar yet. We should do something." And here we are.
There you go. Here we are.
And if you're from outside the US, like I am, to be really honest, um, the whole experience of getting ready for KubeCon in itself can be very intimidating. The the event obviously is an overwhelming experience as like a first timer. I can attest to that. But the whole process, like of getting ready, the visa, the
Oh
everything
yeah.
else, which I'm pretty sure everyone's got it sorted by now. That's an intimidating process. So much so that you might actually forget to have fun at the event because of like how stressed you are, which is what
Right.
happened to me. Which is what happened to me in all fairness at the very first KubeCon that I was part of. I then decided that like visas are going to be the bane of my existence every single time I have to
Yeah.
travel, and I just like made my peace with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry that everybody has to go through a different process just to get here,
Yeah.
right? Like that
It's
in
kind of
and of
strange.
itself is a weird thing, right? Because as an American going to the EU, no problem. American going to the UK, no problem. American going to Australia, no problem, right? Like it. I understand many people suffer with this issue that they have to get the visa before they can say they can go, and then it's all these things you have to get
Mm-hmm.
along that route. Like if you're there and you've done all that, thank you. Seriously, thank you. I appreciate you doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I especially know that a lot of first timers are doing this too. And, it's probably not your first time traveling out of the country, I hope, but I hope you've navigated this process well because if you're just starting it, it's too late.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah,
you know
and
somebody, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's especially intimidating just like getting the US visa for at least, especially for people like me,
Hmm.
like people out of India. So I know that there's already been a bunch of sessions around this. Previous KubeCon, I think Guy Menham, if I'm getting his name right, has done this. Taylor Dolzal and the
Hmm.
CNCF ambassadors have also done a fantastic session. I think a couple of weeks or a month back, and on on how to architect your shed and get to the best sessions.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave the link in the comments in a bit. But the aim is for everyone tuning in to complement this session with the learnings from all those other content
Mm-hmm.
pieces, and think of us as like your fairy god people who are going to get you ready and dashing for the ball. uh,
I,
but
I got
yeah.
to find my wand. Hang on.
I was gonna say I
Yeah.
got wings.
Like
Uh,
imagine us, I mean that's the best we can do right now. So yeah, so I think let's begin with the basics, shall we? So
sure.
I don't think like we're like fashionistas, but I do have to start off with this very basic question of what is some must-have fashion advice for a beginner who's like attending KubeCon for the very
Oh.
first time?
Ooh,
Uh,
that's a
be
good one.
yourself.
Yeah.
Like everybody wears so many different things. Like
Hmm.
just be comfortable. You're going to be walking a lot.
Shoes are
So
important.
wear comfortable shoes. If you tend to get cold in a building, bring something warm. you know, these
Yeah.
are big drafty buildings most of the time, and like I know I actually have these big sneakers, big
Like,
slab of rubber.
there
Like
you
no,
go. Yeah.
seriously, they are thick.
Yeah.
Because I am walking a lot all
Hmm.
throughout KubeCon. Especially because the other thing to know is that the venue itself isn't the only place where things happen.
Yeah.
There are like sessions in a different hotel. There's sessions down the street. I think some sessions are like 2 blocks away, 3 blocks away.
Hmm.
Be ready to walk because you're gonna be doing that. So like I'm not a fashion person. There are other people on my team who are very much fashion people. I literally wear jeans and a t-shirt and a pair of beat up sneakers. Like that's really what I wear. I'm not that fashionable ever. But really comfortable shoes.
Yeah.
Bring something warm just in case. Also, it's going to be cold in Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago,
So.
November, it's going to be cold. The
Mhm.
wind coming off Lake Michigan will be cold-ish as well. So it'll feel humid, even though it's not necessarily humid, right? Lake
Mhm.
effect weather is a thing. I live in Michigan, and yeah, like we get lake effect stuff from Lake Michigan here in Detroit. So as you can imagine, it happens in Chicago frequently. Usually, January, February, but not November.
It's a little early
but I've
for
seen
snow.
I've seen
but-
snow in Austin at KubeCon before, so that's a thing that has happened.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think to speak to the walking point, right? Like I have a brand new pair of shoes that I will take them to KubeCon brand new, and that will be my KubeCon shoes because I want
Break them in
0 miles
first.
on the tires. Yeah. No, I already
Break
have
it
like it's
first.
the same style of shoe I wear. So
Okay.
trust
All
me,
right.
I have a method to my madness.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't bring a pair of hiking shoes that you're just breaking in for the first time.
No, like
Don't
you
do
should
that.
know you should know your footwear, right? Like
Yep.
my footwear is specifically from a certain brand, and I can drop it in chat if you're curious. But it's basically it doesn't have laces that you have to tie. You just slide your foot in, and it stays on your foot in a very good way. I do this for a couple of reasons, but mainly because I have my hands full of stuff often, and I have to do the whole shoe thing. And like when I'm going super high fashion or something, that's a thing that I have to like. Okay, let me put all these things down for a second and then pick them back up. And yeah, I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just put them on and walk out the door. So yeah, those should be. I would recommend newer but broken in, yes. Or if they're brand new, like you're an NBA player or somebody, I'm not. Like your shoe is going to be a certain way, right? Like you're fine. Yeah, but like more on the health stuff, right? Like drink a lot of water. Like you will be dehydrated if you don't. Your skin cannot suck in enough moisture to sustain the miles of walking you're about to do. And if you're disabled and you're in a wheelchair or anything like that, like just as well as I do the challenges of old downtowns and older cities. So, that is going to be even more important for somebody with a disability like myself because you're out of your normal, safe bubble, I'll say, right? Like my home is my nice, safe space where everything I need is here, and you got to bring all that there. So, don't be afraid to pack heavy. It's KubeCon. You're going to need all the things, right? Like if you try to do the full schedule, you'll be done by Wednesday.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And for what it's worth, it's only the second day of like the official events. The like co-located events are the ones that start on Monday. So like if you want to be spent by Wednesday, like
go to 2-day zeros, go to the
Yeah.
keynotes, go to all the sessions, and then pass out at 5 o'clock.
Actually, you could start at Cloud Native Rejects, which
Cloud
Native
even
Rejects
earlier.
That's actually where I'm going to be.
Right.
I'm getting in Friday, and I will be at Cloud Native Rejects volunteering Saturday and Sunday. For people who don't know what Cloud Native Rejects it's what's called a B-side conference. So think of it more like the reverse side of a record. Okay, maybe I shouldn't use that because I know there's probably people who don't know what records are.
Or tapes for that matter, but yeah.
Or tapes, but
it's
yeah.
It's a mixtape of Cloud Native content.
So
how about that?
it's basically the talks that got rejected from KubeCon itself are then you can submit them to rejects, and then they go through and they pick some of the best ones from that. And it's a smaller, more intimate one. I think tickets are almost sold out.
I need to
there
get
should
one
be
for
a couple
Sunday.
left.
Yeah.
There should be a couple left. So just something to know if you want to go look for it. But it's a really great way to actually meet people beforehand, because that to me actually is one of the big keys for KubeCon. If you don't know anyone, it's scary. It's overwhelmingly scary, especially if you don't know how quite to connect with people. I remember my very first KubeCon, I wore a bright pink jacket. Now, most people who know me know I hate the color pink, but it was my raincoat. and my raincoat just happened to be like this bright pink because I got it for sale somewhere. But I discovered that I could literally tell people, come find me, say hi, I'm friendly, look for the pink raincoat. And I was the only one wearing a pink raincoat. And so it actually kind of worked out. But if you just don't know anyone, it's kind of hard to start making those connections. So part of it is finding ways to connect with people ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, like going to Rejects, that's about 400 people, I think. 200 or 400?
200 to 400
So,
usually, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a much smaller event. You can meet some people, and that way when you're overwhelmed with just the sheer press of people at KubeCon and you happen to see a face in the crowd you recognize, you can at least say hi to somebody.
Right.
And not feel so alone. So that's actually probably one of my biggest tips for this.
Yeah. Also, don't be afraid to approach myself.
Oh, yeah.
Divya, Laura, any of us. We put our pants on
Absolutely.
just like you do.
Yep.
Right? Like that's how
Surprise!
I like to
And
tell
the
people.
shoes. And the shoes.
And the
Chris.
shoes.
And the
We all-
shoes.
yes.
And the
Yes.
shoes.
Yes. Shoes, feet in, laces
Yep.
become a thing. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, so like I know that there's cloud native Kubernetes like stars, fan, whatever. Like I'm probably the most humble person on earth, or at least I try to be sometimes, right? Like don't get me wrong, I celebrate my, accomplishments, but I try to live a more humble life in general. So, just because we've been around the Kubernetes space for a long time doesn't make us different.
Yeah.
It makes us busier. It doesn't make us different though. So like you'll know if I'm busy because I'll be moving much faster than a casually stroll. I will be on a phone frantically heading somewhere or something like that. So yeah.
I can attest to that, Chris.
yeah.
You will know when Chris is busy because last KubeCon in Detroit,
Oh man.
Chris was running through like the hotel lobby, and I caught him in the middle of his fast-paced walking or running, and I'm like,
I have
"Hi,
long
Chris."
legs. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I have like really tiny legs, so I think Chris maybe takes like 4 steps for every like 1 step that I take. So I'm like, Chris, it's me, hi, and Chris is like, hi, I ought to be somewhere else. I'm really sorry. We'll catch up later. I'm like, yeah, that's never gonna happen because like I
Catching
know
up
what that.
now.
Yeah,
Surprise!
like 1 year.
I
Yeah,
think you
1
caught me
year
right out of
later.
the elevator too, right? Like
Yes,
that's
yeah.
like the most inopportune time to catch somebody, right? Because if they're running
Yeah.
late, they're gonna be like boom, right out of that elevator.
And I think you drop some stuff too at that point. And I'm
Right.
like,
Yes. No.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I
I
do
remember
not
it
know whether
now.
to tell you hi or whether to help you with your stuff or like, finally catch up with you after all these years. I'm like, it's a tough call, but I'm gonna say hi. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, TLDR, please feel free to approach us. We will tell you if you're busy. Which is, it's not gonna be in a rude way. We promise that.
Right. Like
But
I
yeah.
probably should have mentioned like, hey, come by the AWS booth later, right? Like, or next time I was on the floor sometime, I would just come find you or, DM you in Slack and say, hey, I'm available now if you, want to come say hi. I need to be better about that. That's something I learned at DevOps Days last week. As someone that's a mentor, it's not someone else's job to kind of become your mentee, right? Like if you want to help somebody, you need to initiate the conversation as the mentor. So yeah, I will be better about that. So thank you for that reminder, Divya.
Yeah, I mean, I am trying to do better myself. To be really honest, I'm not like really great at it either. So I am. I know that a lot of people will balk at this if I actually say this, but I am very much an introvert. So it's like extremely difficult for me to initiate conversations, and it's very difficult for me to like have conversations after 12 hours of boot duty. But I try my best. Yeah, I try my best.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
I'm definitely.
Sorry, Laura. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just was gonna say I'm definitely also an introvert. Most people don't believe me. I just know how to put on that extrovert mask very, very well.
Bingo.
But once I've been in the booth, because I will be at the booth a lot during KubeCon this year. So once I'm at the booth for that long, and you catch me like coming right off the booth, I'm probably going to go try to find somewhere to hide for just like 2 minutes in silence. And then I'll come find people. It's definitely often a lot of just kind of sneaking off.
Yeah, it's
that's a thing.
I have found so last year the meeting rooms, like AWS had a meeting room, and they were or in Amsterdam, I should say, not last year. I always say
they
last
were
year
like
when I
over
mean the
top
last time.
of.
They were over
Yeah,
top. So like
it was
somebody
loud
like
too.
me that's tall, like when you're walking up there, you're like a moving target. Because like
Yep.
text message, DM. It's like,
I
hi
see
guys,
you
I'm on my
over
way to a
there.
meeting. It's like, sorry.
Nice.
But I did go up there once just to like kind of observe the whole thing. And JJ Ashgar reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, Chris." I was like, "Well, he's probably in the IBM booth." Oh, hey. But I was literally just up there, like taking a break, going through DMs and messages and stuff like that. I find my places. You can come find me. Like if I'm just standing somewhere waiting or sitting somewhere, right? Like totally feel free to come sit down and say hi, right? Like don't be afraid, or at least just say hi as you're on the way, like Divya did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll try and tell you when the next time is I'm available.
Yes. And speaking of boots, because we've been speaking a lot about boots.
This
What's
event has more booths than you can throw a stick at.
like you probably throw a rock and it'll hit right at someone's booth.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't try that because it literally might hit
It
someone.
will happen, yeah.
Yeah. So speaking about boots, because this is like one of the hottest topics every newcomer is like sort of struggling with. How much swag is too much swag when you're like hoarding it?
So they give you like I have like from conferences of long ago a reusable bag that I keep with me. Like this is something you should bring. Bring a reusable bag. When that bag is full, you need to go back to your hotel room and dump it. Or like figure out like I'm done with swag for now, right? Like and figure out what more you can carry. Don't grab everything. Like just because something's free doesn't mean you'll actually use it sometimes. You'll actually end up like I bring home maybe 1 or 2 t-shirts nowadays. I don't bring home like a fleet of them because well I have other clothes to wear. Right?
Yeah.
Like I only wear tech shirts when I'm working.
I think for me, like the thing about swag, I don't really typically bring swag home. I just have so much stuff all the time anyway. I do a one bag, so typically when I am going on a trip, it is a carry-on only. So that forces me not to take too much swag.
It's a good forcing function,
Yeah. But the thing is, there's definitely people who enjoy it, and more
and
power
there'll be people
to
there
you.
with some awesome swag too, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
get it?
yeah. We're gonna have some cool stuff at the Dell booth, by the way. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Yeah. But yeah, so the thing about swag, I guess that I would say is consider use, but also like have fun.
Yeah.
Walk the floor first.
Right.
Before you pick your swag. Don't just go around shopping immediately because then like you might find out, I don't know, I'm going to try to go back a couple years. Like maybe you really like the JFrog shirts and you're going through and you pick up a JFrog shirt, but then you get down to the Datadog booth and they have more t-shirts and you like their t-shirts better. I'm just from long ago, they used to be the two that always would fight about the t-shirts, right? And then suddenly you don't have enough room in your bag. And you miss out on this shirt that you really, really wanted. You're not going to go back to the JFrog booth and hand them back their shirt.
No.
That doesn't happen.
No.
So walk the floor, see what's there. Unless there's something absolutely amazing that you have to have. Okay. But like, take a minute. Don't assume that swag will be gone. A lot of us keep swag. Like a lot of us actually meter our swag. We'll give out like a bunch of swag on day 1.
Yep.
Then we'll have some swag for day 2 and some swag for day 3. Just because we don't want people to come up and go away empty-handed.
Yeah. We don't want anybody to have that happen to them,
It's
right?
hard.
Yeah. So we do like And I know from, Laura, you probably know this way better than I do, from somebody that's sat on the outside looking in to like the third party events teams and people that have to ship the stuff back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they don't want to have to ship stuff back. So please don't bring
Yeah.
back your t-shirts and stuff, right? Like trust me, like you
I,
taking it and giving it to like a charity would be great,
yeah, I remember actually sitting there once. It was day 3, and we still had what was it? It was Rubik's cubes.
Oh yeah.
We still had
Ooh.
Rubik's cubes, and I was just desperately like, please take 2, take 5. I don't
Right?
want to take these home. Back when Palumi was doing the cat ears,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
like after the initial rush on the cat ears, because everybody wanted a pair of cat ears. After that, there was like piles of cat ears in the booth, and we're like, please just take them. We don't want them. Please, just all of them. You can have 40 of them. Give them
Right.
out to your friends. Take them back for meetups. I don't care. Take them, please.
Please.
We do that a lot. We try to do that a lot. So,
Yeah.
actually, if you want to get swag for your local meetups or something like that, if you're more like me, where you'll gather some swag and kind of give it out at your local meetups,
Mhm.
if you go the last day, you
Oh,
get
yeah.
the please take all of our swag.
Yeah.
If you're that kind of a person, you're able to kind of get like a whole bunch of stuff that you can give away to colleagues, you can give away to family, whatever.
I
So,
always shop for Max on the last day. Unless
yeah.
it's something like really cool, and then like I go get that
Mhm.
the first day because I know third day is usually when something cool is going to go run out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I typically shop for Max, the 7-year-old about turn 8 kind of thing, and bring him home fun stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. A friend of mine, that's what she does. She goes and shops for her nephew.
Mm-hmm.
It's shopping,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Now, I mean, I actually have very similar inputs, but I would like to take a diversion from here based on what you said. Like,
Mhm.
I've also experienced this thing where people come and give stuff back at the booth, and I don't think that's a great etiquette to follow. And
Mm-mm.
I
No.
would like some like guidelines around typical etiquettes. And I know we're not like hard set on sir and ma'am, and I mean that's actually pretty much banned.
Yeah.
Please don't call sir and
Don't.
ma'am. That's like the first rule of like KubeCon is that you never call people sir and ma'am. But what are some of the other etiquettes that come to your mind besides please don't return
Hmm.
stuff to the booth because we'll have to ship them back?
Okay. Don't
Ooh.
assume you know people. Right? Like,
There you
just
go.
because you follow them on Twitter or you see
Oh,
them
yeah.
speak, don't assume that you know who they are and how they're going to react to your comments, right? Like, make no
Mhm.
assumptions, right? Like, pre call, make no assumptions is something that I try to tell people in the DevOps space and have been saying it for over a decade now. Just don't, right? Because the
Mhm.
person you say, hey, man, they're going to be like, I'm actually identifying as they, them. And you're going to be like,
Mhm.
oh, shit, is that a code of conduct violation? And you're going to be screwed. Sorry
Yeah.
for using foul language on your show, Divya. I'm sorry.
At least you
But
did it first.
yeah, no, I knew it was going to be me first. So I had the apology already teed up. Trust me. So I've been around too many Marines.
It's
Anyways,
okay.
yeah, I know. I'm sorry. The other things, right? Like, be considerate. You can say, hey, friend, or hey, folks, if you're addressing a group of people, right? Like, just don't assume you know somebody, right? Like, that's the biggest thing, right? Like, hey, Chris, I had some questions about how you manage your disability. Like, that's a question
Mhm.
that I would respond to very positively. And I would say, yes, let us talk. Come sit. I have a book.
Yeah.
Let's go over these things.
Yeah. I'd say so. So definitely everything that Chris just said. Those are definitely etiquette things that I can think of. I want to talk etiquette about talks for a minute.
Yes. Oh, my
A
God.
couple things. Okay. First things first. If you are planning to stay for the entire talk, sit near the front.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people just want to sit in the back, and it's really depressing for the speaker.
Yeah. If there's
Like,
nobody
so
in the front row to cheer them on.
Try
Yeah.
to move up. Like, it's not embarrassing to sit near the front.
Great leg
You're not
room.
going to get called on. You're not like nothing. It's fine. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you're not sure you want to take in a talk, that's where it's fine to sit in the back. But the big thing to know is if you are going into a door, like either going into a room where a speaker is currently speaking or you're leaving, be very careful about that door.
Yes.
Open it quietly and hold it until it closes. Don't let it just slam behind you.
No.
Because speakers can hear that standing up on the stage. And it's really distracting. Yeah. Yes. And it also can be a little depressing if they keep hearing that after like the first 5 minutes of their talk, because they might be thinking, oh, everybody's leaving. No one wants to hear me talk. So just keep those kind of things in mind when it comes to speakers and like going to talks. If a talk is full, this is your hint to go check out a different talk. You can go watch the recording later, but
don't miss an opportunity
not worth
to go to a talk.
Like shove yourself into a room, I guess. I don't know. I've never really found it useful to shove myself into a room for a talk that is completely full. It's my chance to go check out something I never would have thought to check out. And who knows, that speaker might really appreciate that I'm sitting in their audience and listening and at least paying some kind of attention to them. So that's something to just keep in mind with speakers.
I have an
things
example
like that.
if you want one.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
So there was a talk that was literally standing room only at GopherCon 2017. Like they were telling us, yo, this room is too full. The fire marshal does not like this. Get out, right? Like, or the safety crew for the venue doesn't like this. And that's when I realized I had PTSD. So don't let an event be the place you figure out you have PTSD. That's not healthy.
Yeah.
And if that does happen to you, let me know. I will help you. Like immediately, I will drop everything. I'll be like, someone has a mental health crisis. I am helping them get to the next stage. It's fine. But that's the biggest thing, right? Like, try not to be a distraction. Always be open-minded and assume positive intent. But I actually had this situation.
Yeah.
At a KubeCon later on that same year, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go into this room. I'm actually going to go over to the SIG storage meeting. Because I know some folks in there and I want to talk to them afterwards. But I actually contributed in the meeting some actual nuggets of information that were helpful. So don't feel like, oh, I'm going to this talk to kind of just go through my email and everything else, right? That
that's not fun.
Go to a talk and be engaged, right? Like if you're going to be in the room, engage.
Yeah.
And don't be the person that's like, hi, my specific situation doesn't apply to your talk at all. Can you give me some advice? Like, that's not a question.
Yeah.
Like, I do things a certain way, and I'm curious what you think of that is not a question. All right? Like, you need a question. And think about what a question is. A question is to obtain knowledge, right? So if you're comparing it to something you've done as you're prefacing your question, just don't. Just say, hey, I've seen it done a couple of different ways. What's the benefits of doing it this way, right? Like, that's always a great question because there's so many ways to do the same thing in the cloud native world. I love it. It's just like, operating systems back in the day. Now it's Kubernetes and everything else. Be engaged. Contribute.
Yeah.
Feel free to contribute, right? Like, don't be afraid.
Yeah. I'd say the one other thing that I'd mention is if you're going to have a conversation with a group of people, don't do it outside of a speaking room. Because often we can hear all the conversation that happens right outside the doors. Move away from the doors, move down the hall. Often, you get a really good speaker. They have a line of people wanting to ask them questions. They're in a hurry to get off the stage so the next speaker can get up and start doing their tech checks. So they're trying to get you to go with them out the door. And then when you're having the conversation with them, they're probably trying to move away from the door because they know what this is like. Go with them. It's not anything wrong. I did this with George Castro once.
Walk with me.
Yeah, exactly. We were trying to get out of the way for everybody else who was coming in for the next talk. And everybody wanted to just congregate and ask him more questions right there outside of the door. But he kept trying to move the whole group away from the door because people would like to be able to listen to the next talk.
Yeah.
So just be considerate when we talk about the etiquette part. Be considerate of the fact that your voice echoes in these large rooms, these large buildings.
I'm notoriously bad
I'm
for that.
loud. I admit it.
My
So,
voice is a low
you know,
frequency and it just carries. So like I have
yeah.
that opposite side. I'm not necessarily loud sometimes. It's just the frequency level just pushes through stuff.
I have been blamed for being squeaky and loud. So, I mean, I'm definitely on the side of the spectrum where I am loud, I'm squeaky. So, I am like very, very audible if I'm speaking at a very loud volume. So, if you're anything like me, um, or even if you're nothing like me, we would like heavily recommend that you don't stand in front of like the conference room, not conference room, the session room doors, and like have your conversation. And just one more point to add, like just because we're on the topic of like having conversations, when you're like having conversations, always make room. If like
Oh
Mhm.
you
yeah.
see a person hovering around, like they're probably trying to like get into the conversation or are interested in the conversation
Do it.
themselves and
Yes,
is
you do this the best, Laura.
yeah.
So there is the Pac-Man
Theory.
theory of
Yeah.
having conversation. I'm going to use this lens cap as an example. If you are all standing around in a circle, where does someone enter in the conversation? They can't
It's
because you have a
impenetrable
closed
circle
circle.
of. Hmm.
So instead, I'm going to just put my finger there. Imagine there's a gap like Pac-Man. Every circle of conversation you have should leave that gap. You'll notice that if I'm in a circle of conversation and someone has joined, I then move backward because I'm opening the circle of conversation because it invites the next person in. If I'm inching away from you in a circle of conversation, it's not because I don't want to stand next to you.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that you know, you don't have anything in your teeth, I promise.
You don't smell funny. No.
You don't smell funny. I am literally trying to open up a space in
For
that
others.
circle for the next person to join in.
And this
So
is
this
the
is
best part
the
of KubeCon.
Pac-Man
Yeah.
version. Yeah.
This community really, really does practice that. So just keep that
Mm-hmm.
in mind, right? Like if you want to engage in a conversation that's already happening with somebody, join the circle.
Yeah. Now, if somebody has a clearly closed circle, they might be having a private conversation. In which case,
Yeah.
maybe come back later. But if you're pretty sure that people just haven't learned the Pac-Man circle to conversation,
Mm-hmm.
make some room for yourself. It's okay to do that.
And you'll
But
see
just
this.
keep it in mind.
You'll see it
People like
happening.
me will make room.
Yeah, you'll see it
Yeah.
happening, right? Like there's so
Mm-hmm.
many of us that have been to these and have done
Yep.
this enough. Like yeah, you'll see me standing somewhere talking to somebody, and someone else comes up. And then I'm just like, hey, let's form a little like C-shaped thing here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And we just kind of make a little bit of room so that anybody else can join.
Yep.
So it's a great chance to just do. And remember, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen more than you speak.
Exactly.
So it's always good to do.
And coming to the topic of listening more than you speak, Laura, I
Mhm.
had a question on how. I mean, that's for both of you, by the way. It's not specific to Laura, Chris, if you
I'm
felt left
thinking.
out there. So, um, a lot
I'm
of people
thinking.
tend to actually like take that advice to heart, and not approach people. Like I know we covered this
Ah.
earlier about like approaching people and having a conversation, but a lot of them are like um passive listeners. I mean, and there's nothing against that. Like I
Mm-hmm.
try to soak
Mhm.
in as much information as possible, but I think a lot of it boils down to imposter syndrome and feeling like you're not good enough to be in that crowd. So do you have like, I mean, I know this is a very psychological and personal question to ask people, but are there any tips or, any suggestions that
Mm.
could sort of help people navigate that like first intro or the first hello or introduction to a particular group that they have? Because it's a very intimidating experience if you're like an absolute beginner and you like just jump into conversation and that you have no context of, but you want to be there because what they're talking about seems interesting and you feel like you could add, but you're not like really able to do so because you don't feel like you have their expertise level.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, For me, this is when I've seen, like, this has happened to me a couple times, I think now. Folks DM me on Slack or they'll DM me on Twitter. Like, if you DM me on Slack, I'll get it because I'm paying attention to Kubernetes Slack during KubeCon. So,
Mhm.
yeah, like, and I'll say, hey, I'll be here later. Just come by and say hi. I mean, even the Frederick Couts, or not, however I forget how to say his last name. I'm so sorry, Frederick.
That's okay.
He was like, "Hey, when are you free?" Via DM one time in Amsterdam. And I was like, "Hey, I'll be at the booth during this time. Feel free to come by and say hi." And we talked for an hour. And several
Mhm.
people came in and out of that conversation as we talked. But yeah, it was an hour-long conversation. It was awesome. But yeah, a couple of people stopped by that were like, "Hey, you told me DM you." And I was like, "Hey, hi, I'm Chris. Here's Frederick. Nice to meet you. What's up?" And Frederick and I would pause our conversation and answer that person's question, and they would leave, and we continue our conversation. Like, that's usually how it works. Don't be afraid to approach people that are talking, especially like one or twosies. That's important. Also, if you see like a bunch of people that you're intimidated by, it's okay. Breathe. You are a human, just like we are. It's okay. Even I get like Bridget Cromhout shows up. And I'm like, oh, am I like got my P's and Q's in order here? Like Ashley McNamara, same thing. It's like, I know Ashley, I know her kids, but no. It's just like anxiety, right? Like, so I get the
Yeah.
fan stuff. Like, I get that, and like I'm totally that person that like, hey Ashley, how's it going? And totally forgets how to communicate after that. Sometimes,
Mhm.
and it'll happen to you, and that's okay. It's normal. It's fine.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Laura, what you got?
Yeah. So I guess I have a couple things about imposter syndrome in general.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did a blog post on this. I've done various talks on it, mostly more towards the I'm going to go up and speak variety.
Right.
But I guess the first thing that I'd say is that it might be hard to remember, but you have experience that everyone else doesn't
Yep.
because you're the only one in your own skin. So you're going to have experience that not everybody does. I admit that I actually normally am fairly quiet in group settings. I don't interject much in the conversation. I listen a lot. It's more a habit at this point than anything else, just because that's just who I am. Especially if I've been at a conference for who knows how long and I am absolutely exhausted and I am literally just kind of sitting there a little dazed and just letting the conversation wash over my head. So yeah, if you see me a little dazed and confused by like day 2, that's typically why. But I guess what I would say is like sometimes it's a little easier to do one-on-one
Mm-hmm.
than it is to interject into a large group.
Yeah.
So go to the large group and listen. Think about maybe like a question or two maybe you want to ask, or maybe just something that you bookmark. So I remember when I first met George in person, uh it he was talking about some different things, and I heard that he liked cars. And so it was a chance for me, like, okay, I'm going to bookmark that for me to talk to him about later,
Mm-hmm.
because I can talk about cars. I might not be able to talk about the Kubernetes community like he can, but I can talk about cars. And so we did. We got a chance to talk about cars and the community, and then it just snowballed from there. But like, kind of leave little notes for yourself in that kind of a conversation. If you're just too intimidated in a large group, it's okay not to say anything and
Mm-hmm.
wait till the group is smaller,
Yeah.
or try to make some space for yourself to go do those kinds of questions. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is people love to, I don't want to say show off their knowledge, but like answer your question if it's well phrased, right? So if you kind of think about it as like, okay, I'm going to come into this conversation as a beginner and I'm going to ask a question, and maybe I might say, I don't quite understand that. What is, I don't know, what exactly is WebAssembly?
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that, where you just basically say, I'm going to acknowledge that I don't know, and I'm going to ask to try to figure it out. Again, going back to the don't make assumptions. Also, don't pretend that you know when you don't,
Yeah.
because it's okay to ask questions. I'll be honest with you. You see that massive Kubernetes or the massive CNCF landscape, I've had people come up to me and they're like, okay, you're the expert on the CNCF landscape here at Dell. What is all this stuff? And I go, I don't know. I know maybe like 4 of those projects. That's it. And they're fascinated by that idea. But it's true. I don't know any of these projects.
Yeah.
I try to learn about them when I can. But, it's okay to not know things. And that's the scary part, is actually going up to a group of people and saying, yeah, I honestly don't know. But if you get the chance in the conversation and you're comfortable, feel free to ask. That's always fine.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Going back to the landscape, just real quick, there's a thing in the landscape called the CNCF trail map. I point folks at that, right? Like, don't look at the, yeah.
There's a trail
it's in the
map?
GitHub
Okay.
repo. I just dropped it in comments, but I think because it has a link, Divya has to approve it. I don't know. But yeah, it's in the CNCF repo /trail map, all one word, lowercase. So github.com/CNCF/trail map has like 10 things on it. And like, you have to check those boxes for a cloud native, system, essentially, right? So they've made the higher level decisions easier, right? Like, so you can just say, oh, I need an observability tool, or, oh, I need a proxy, right? Like, what do I need? What's the best thing for my use case? And there's so many solutions out there. So many.
This annoys me because I didn't even know about this.
I'm sorry. I try to mention it
No,
every
it's
time
not
someone
your-
says the landscape. And it's been around
it's
since
not your
before Dan
fault.
Kahn passed away, right? Like, yeah.
The thing is like, you would think that they would show this,
Right.
not the landscape when they're talking about it. Like, this would be so much more helpful.
Exactly.
So yeah, okay. So here you go, live stream. There are things we don't know.
High
Yes.
information, like I promised on Twitter.
Yes. I mean, like, if everybody knew everything, then that would probably no longer be, there probably would no longer be a need for a conference, right? Like,
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And when I say there's a lot of booths here, it's mainly because there's a lot of project booths. Like, all the
Yeah.
CNCF incubating and graduated projects have their own booth. And
Yeah.
those booths are a great place to meet contributors, maintainers, and, grab that t-shirt if you really like the project, right? Like, I have a container t-shirt, I have an etcd shirt, and it's to show support to those folks when I'm around them sometimes, right? If you didn't know, etcd, yeah, it's its own CNCF project, but it's
Yep.
moving back as a Kate SIG where it
Kate.
originally was, to benefit from some of the automation in the Kubernetes development environments. So that's awesome. But like, they're still at etcd, and I still swing by and I say thank you for being the brains of Kubernetes.
That reminds me, by the way, this won't really help you getting to meet people beforehand, but if you're interested in contributing and getting on the contributor world, and you're not really sure where to start, on Thursday, there's something called Meet the Kubernetes Contributor Community. And you can show up, and we'll have tables with people from each of these SIGs, which are special interest groups. Each of these different moving parts of Kubernetes, there will be a table, and you can go and talk to them and say, I would like to learn to be a contributor for your group, or can you tell me more about your project? You will meet people there. You can sit down with them, talk. We're going to be there for like 2 hours.
Yep.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
There may be some very, very special stickers that you can earn if you show up.
and badges too, by the way, I've heard.
Yeah, but
Oh, yeah.
I ordered stickers.
Yes.
They're very. If you happen to be on the Kubernetes dev email list, you might magically get to see the preview of these stickers soon. I'm waiting for them to arrive via FedEx today. Anyway, but either way, regardless, if you want to go meet the contributor community specifically for Kubernetes and decide where you might fit, if the contributor handbook for getting started is overwhelming and you just don't know where to go and you want to talk to somebody in person, this is your chance. Show up to this. It's on the schedule. Just look up Meet the Kubernetes Contributor Community. You'll find all of us there, and we will be there. There's also a contributor track, which is going to be more the talk side.
Yep.
But MKCC, Meet the Kubernetes Contributor Community, used to be called SIG Meet and Greet, as Chris wrote in the comments. Come join us.
Yeah.
Learn a little bit.
This was the most fun thing
Make
I ever
friends.
participated in when we KubeCon Seattle, the last time
Yep.
we were there, right? Like I was just directing traffic, and Gwen Sanger and I, like, we just said, "Oh, you're interested in this? Go here, go there," right? Like we've done enough talks about the project itself. Just being that traffic cop, just routing folks everywhere was kind of fun. And like I got to meet a lot of people too in the same time. So yeah, I've always tried to participate in these every time. It's been a challenge, but I've been there
I wonder.
usually.
Let me see if I can get a link to it so that I can at least share.
Yeah,
with
it is
you
on
all.
Sketch, which
It's in Sedge. Yeah. I don't
So,
know. Yeah,
two
where it
things, right?
is.
Like speaking of Sketch, two things, right? Like before you get to the conference, if you have questions that you want answered, write them down and make sure that you get answers for all of them. And you can have them on your phone, some doc somewhere, GitHub repo, whatever you want to do. Come with your questions and leave with answers. That's the biggest advice I could give you, right? And if you have questions and see talks on Sketch that aligns to those questions, that's the session you should go to early to make sure you have a seat. But yes, go through Sketch, figure out, hey, these are a couple, like 2 sessions, like in every possible spot, right? Like this is my primary, this is my backup, whenever you're available for talks. Like I said, don't spend the whole day in talks. Your brain will just drip out of your ears and make a big mess on the KubeCon floor, and that wouldn't be good. So yeah, pace yourself, but go in with questions that you need answered. And if it's is Kubernetes right for me, you're in a good spot. Everybody's going to probably tell you yes. Some more pragmatic people, like myself and Laura, might tell you no now, but later, yes.
Yeah, but and there also are a ton, like Chris mentioned earlier, the various project booths. There's a project showcase on the expo floor.
Yep.
That's where you get to go up to a maintainer for any project that's a CNCF project. And their booths are small, but you can go and talk to them and spend some time with them and figure out if maybe you want to work on a smaller project as a contributor, or you just want to ask questions about that project. They really appreciate it when people come up and ask them questions, because a lot of people are too busy swag hunting to, spend a little bit of time with them. But I do want to say, like, don't be ashamed if you need to go take a minute.
Oh, yes.
KubeCon is overwhelming. It is loud. Back in San Diego on the expo hall floor, somebody took a decibel meter, which is a sound measuring device, out onto the expo floor. It was 80 decibels, which is, I think that's a jackhammer.
Yeah.
I forget. Yeah. It was overwhelmingly loud.
My Apple Watch kept telling me it was overwhelmingly loud. Yes.
Speaking of that, I don't have them.
Oh, you're the one that introduced me to the ear things
that
loops. I immediately lost in Amsterdam.
I have 4 of these. I keep them in every single bag I have. They are called Loop. They are earplugs. But they are earplugs that what they do is they just shave off the upper register and the lower register just enough so that you can still hear everyone who's talking to you, but it deadens the noise just a little bit. If you have any kind of inability to handle that much sound, which I'll be honest with you, most people can't handle that much sound. It's okay. Don't be ashamed. You can get these Loop, L-O-O-P earplugs. Just look them up. There's a ton of different options. I think I have the Loop Experience and something like that.
I'm dropping a link to the Loop Engage Plus earplugs that I use.
Yeah, this is not a sponsored thing by Loop, just like we just telling you up front. Yeah.
I mean, you can get like the little foam earplugs. You can do different things. It's just
these work.
These ones specifically, they work great for still enabling you to have conversation, but just taking the edge off. I guess more to the point is it's an overwhelming experience. It is so loud, and it is so many people, like 18,000 people were there last KubeCon North America in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be overwhelmed, and that's okay. You're going to be covered in people, and you're probably, I remember going back to my hotel room the very first time and literally just standing there for a minute because it was quiet.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do with myself. Don't be ashamed. It's
No.
okay to go take a break. I think there might be quiet rooms this year. I haven't actually taken a look at the venue
Yes,
floor
there
plan.
there are. There
Yeah.
are.
Okay, good, because I
Don't be
need those.
don't be afraid
Yeah.
to go take a minute.
But if someone's
Uh,
in a quiet room, that's not the time
Don't
to
talk
ask
to
them
them.
questions.
Yes, don't talk to them. Quiet room means quiet. But I will say, like, so for me, I definitely will make sure I get a little bit of time to myself in the quiet somewhere or whatever. If you miss something, you miss it. It's not the end of the world. Like, you'll get a chance to find somebody again. We're all perpetually online. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn. Like, don't be ashamed, and don't think like, oh no, I have to cram everything into these 3 days. Don't.
Yeah, don't
It's
feel
too
like you have to
much.
do that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just
So,
like you have to drink water, you have to rest. It's a mandatory.
Yeah.
yep. Yeah.
No,
All
you'll see
right
me going back
then.
and forth to the hotel quite a bit. Just Laura,
Mhm.
case in point,
Yeah.
right? Like I'll walk
Right.
more just so I can get that downtime sometimes. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And as much as I'd love to continue this conversation, I think Laura and Chris also have to get back to what we call as day jobs.
Yeah,
So
Man,
that's
I
a
guess
do
part of
we?
it. I
so.
mean, community is a small part of my day job. Yes.
Yeah,
It's a little bit.
but
Yeah.
yeah, and I would love to catch up with anyone who's right now watching us or
Yeah.
ends up watching this recording in future
Mm-hmm.
at KubeCon Chicago or any other KubeCon that this actually gets watched for. I don't know when, but it would be an honor if y'all come and talk to us.
Mhm.
And we're absolutely okay, being spoken to when we're in the booths or wherever. And if we're not, we will
Mhm.
let you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That being said, thank you so much, Laura and Chris, for
Yeah.
Thank you.
coming
Yeah.
on.
Thank you
You
for
brought the
putting
And
this
platform.
together.
You solved the
Yeah.
hard part. Yeah.
Thanks,
yay,
y'all. This was
it's
fun.
teamwork. It's teamwork that makes the dream
Yep.
work and all
That's
that.
right.
So it was all of
It's
us
good.
together. And thank you so much for coming on. And I'm hoping to catch you all at KubeCon, hopefully,
Yeah.
and not at the elevator, Chris.
Yes, I will try to find you in your booth this time. I promise.
No, I'm going to come and find you
Nice.
somewhere else, but I will not catch you at the elevator. Is a lesson that I've learned. So
But I.
yeah,
But if I drop something, please help.
yes, I
There you
will.
go.
That I will.
There you go.
Yeah. So thank you so much to everyone that's tuned in as well. And whoever's going to come by, please do, visit our booths. And if you see us walk past you, please say hello. We're always welcome to have a chat. I mean, we're always open to have a chat. You're always welcome to have a chat with us.
Great.
So yeah, thank you. And we'll see you around. Bye.
Take care, folks.
See ya.
Bye.